So welcome to our transition to recovery, and this is going to be around the sacral chakra. So I would like to invite you to come to a comfortable lying position and to have your knees bent and to have your feet about hip width apart. And we're just going to start by calming into the body, acknowledging we're here in the present moment. And just observing how you're feeling. Now, I'm just going to go through some of the properties of the sacral chakra, just in case you weren't here on Monday. But it's very much to do with our emotions and being able to feel our emotions. So it's often called our center of power, our center of prana, but also our emotion feeling center. And all too often, of course, we block our feelings off. They're too painful and we're not acknowledging them. So hopefully this practice is going to help you to begin to open up. I'm just going to read you from my teaching notes from my teacher some of the qualities associated with this chakra. So it's about giving and receiving. It's about our creative center. It's about nurturing and being balanced and able to feel the appropriate emotion. Somebody with this center in balance can embrace change easily and has healthy boundaries with the capacity to feel deeply. And then in brackets, interestingly, I wrote from what my teacher was saying that the capacity to feel is a spiritual capacity. And happiness is connected to our flexibility and movement, because this chakra is also about movement and playfulness and pleasure. So this is a chakra, Swadhisthana, the sacral chakra, is also about happiness and joy. And of course, it is concerned with our sacral area, so that's particularly the pelvic bowl, our reproduction organs, and that area around the lower spine. So we were looking at the lower spine with Muladhara chakra. This chakra, Swadhisthana, is quite close, it's just above. So just start by observing how you are in this moment. And I'd like you to pay particular attention to any emotions that you might have. And if you haven't got anything there, that's fine too. And then if it's okay for you, just become aware of the breath. And if it's not okay, you're just going to focus on this sacral area around the back. And I'd like you to breathe into the sacral area around the back of the spine and visualize the spine lengthening as you exhale. And you might like to see the breath as orange light. Orange is the color associated with this chakra. Breathing in an orange light to the sacral area. As you exhale, just visualize the spine lengthening. And then we're going to chant the seed mantra for this chakra, which is VAM, V-A-M, VAM. So if you like to take your hands and place them just above the pubic bone on your pelvis, or you can leave them beside you. But again, I'd like you to direct your focus here And you're just going to chant. I'll do it first, and then you do it in your own breathing rhythm and your own pitch. It's really important you find your own tone, your own vibration. So it goes like this. Om Vam 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 Namaha. So let's try that once together, and then I'm going to leave you to do it 3 times. So inhale. Om Vam 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 Namaha. So try that 3 to 5 times in your own breathing rhythm. And of course, if you don't want to chant, you can just hum or you can breathe. If you're still chanting, make the one you're on your last, and then return to normal breathing. And again, just check in. Letting the mind, the breath, the emotions, the body, all being focused together. And then we're going to do some gentle movement around the pelvis. So we're just going to start by taking the knees into the chest, one knee then the other. And then we're just going to rock out the spine from side to side. And then drop the feet down to the floor. So the knees are still bent. Drop the hands down beside the hips. And we're just going to roll in a figure 8 around the pelvis. So if you're not sure, you can look at the screen, but most of the time you don't need to look at the screen. But you're imagining a figure 8 on the floor under you, and you're drawing your pelvis around that figure 8. And you can take that clockwise or anti-clockwise, whatever direction feels right for you. And then pause. And then again, direct your inhalation and your exhalation into the sacrum. And then when you're ready, we're going to come up just to do some very, very gentle standing movements. So if you would like to roll to one side, wait there a minute just to let your circulation come back to normal, and then come to standing. And if you prefer to move from lying, that's also fine, because most of what we do can be adapted. I'm just going to alter my camera. So as always, we start by thinking about our posture, because we want to think about the health of our spine. And as we're working on the chakras over the next few months, we are working on this energy which runs parallel to the spine. So we want to think about our posture being more upright. When we've been ill and when we're sick, we tend to hunch over because we want to protect ourselves. But that can also be because we're looking at screens. It can also be because there's quite heavy energy going on in the world. So this is an opportunity just to remind us. So start with your feet together. Make a V with your toes and then tread your heels out. So your feet are under your hips. And then just sway forward over your toes and your heels until you get that middle point where you're nicely balanced. And you might like to imagine the feet spreading and widening so that you are safely grounded as well. And then thinking of this pelvic bowl, take one hand just above the pubic bone, the other hand parallel to it on the back. And we're just going to tilt the pelvis up and down until we find the point where the sacrum at the back of the spine feels comfortable and is not tense. And you'll notice that, as you tilt, that you might feel a little bit of strain one way or the other, but just come to where the pelvis is into neutral. And then you're going to lift up the ribs, because again, when we're tired, we tend to compress over the rib cage and then the diaphragm can't be free. And then think of the sternum, the chest, the heart. So this is nicely lifted. And I said last week, a nice visualization was to imagine you've got a great big crystal or a diamond on your heart and you want to show it off. So we're not kind of rounding over it, we're lifting the upper part of the body. And then roll your shoulders a couple of times. If you want, you can take your fingertips to your shoulders just to help with this movement. Bring the shoulder blades together. And then relax the arms down. So the middle finger is in line with your trouser seam. Remember this trick, so we're not rounding our shoulders to the front. This again helps to lift up the heart. And then think about your head position. Remember, the head is very heavy and is going to take a lot of energy if it's not held correctly. You just got a small atlas joint on which it balances. And we all tend to poke our heads too far forward, again because of screens. So to counteract that, nod your head up and then lengthen the back of the neck and tuck the chin into the chest. And close your eyes and just take a moment or two to feel how this posture feels. So it's this somatic awareness. You're just imprinting into your mind how good posture, open posture feels. So above the waist, we are lifted up to the sky. Below the waist, we are grounded down to the earth. And then as we did from lying, we're going to again wake this pelvic area up, sacral chakra. So take your hands to your waist. And again, we're just going to make a figure 8 around the pelvis. So just drawing a figure 8. Remembering that this is your power center. This is your center of pleasure and creativity. You can take it one way than the other, or you might like to just circle the pelvis. So play about with this movement. There's a lot of yoga traditions where they teach in a very rigid manner, so you're meant to be doing everything the teacher says, or postures are done in a particular sequence. But I would like you to begin to develop an idea of your own sovereignty, what feels right for you. So I'm just your guide, but you're moving much more with what feels right for your body. It's like when we chant, you want to chant with what feels right for your own frequency, your own pitch. Now, I said that this chakra is about movement and fun and pleasure. So I know that we are working with a group who have chronic fatigue. I've had it myself very severely for a number of years. So the next guideline I'm giving you, I want you to listen into your energy and only do what feels right. But what I'd like you to do now is just to move on the mat, almost as if you were dancing. Feel into what does your body need? Does it need stretching? So play about with movement. Just explore. Imagine the air is treacle and you're waving your arms through it. So just explore. I'm not looking at your cameras. Nobody else is looking at you. And if you want to stand still, that's fine also. You might even want to have a bit of a dance. And then from this, just shake, have a bit of a shake. Because as I've often explained, shaking is fantastic for releasing stored trauma and helping to reset the nervous system. But don't tire yourself. Come back to standing still when you're ready. Remember that we all have different energy levels, so what one person does will not necessarily be right for you. And then when you're ready, come back to standing on your mat. Again, just somatically feeling how that good posture feels. Close your eyes and just feel the aliveness in your body. And see if you can find a sense of stillness. And then find the breath. And we're going to breathe in up the feet, up the legs, up the spine to the crown of the head. And then we're going to breathe out, down the spine, down the legs and out through the feet. So draw that breath all the way up from the feet to the crown and then breathing out. And then we're going to introduce some chanting and movements. So inhale your arms up, and then as if you're pushing through treacle, we're going to chant Om, Vam, Vam, Vam. Seed mantra for Swadhisthana Chakra. Inhale up. Om, Vam, Vam, Vam. Try that 2 or 3 times more in your own breathing rhythm and your own pitch. Resting when you need to. Make the one you're on your last, and then just relax with the arms beside the body. And then again, we're going to think of the movement coming from the hips, from the sacral area. We're just going to sway from side to side, but remember, it's not the arms that are bringing the movement, it's from the hips, from this pelvic bowl. The arms are just following the twist. And then beginning to slow the movement down. The arms are still moving, but just let the body come to stillness naturally. And in a moment, we're going to come down to kneeling, but we're going to do one more posture. As always, I put a balance in because I think it's such an important posture to do as we are recovering. So I thought we'd do the same posture that we did, the balance posture we did last week, which was the beginning of the dancer posture. So do come to a support if you need to come to a wall or whatever you have to lean on. And I'm going to suggest that you have your left hand on your support. Think about being, again, evenly balanced over both feet. And then when you're ready, take your weight to your left foot. Now, the support is there if you need it, but what you're going to do is to bend your right knee, taking hold of the ankle if you can, and taking that foot in towards the buttocks with the knees together. And then you focus on a spot to help you balance. And then if you're okay with that, you lift the left arm. So I'll stand back a bit further in case you need to look at the screen, but it's better to look at your spot rather than me. So the arms close to the ears, the knees are close together, and you're breathing, you're focusing on something stable. And when you come out, try to come out with the same ease that you came into the posture, so you're not falling into it. And then we can take that to the other side. So we're going to take our weight onto our right foot this time, holding with the right hand if we need to, and then bending the left knee so that the heel of the left foot comes in towards the buttock, the knees are together. And then if you're feeling stable, you're lifting that right arm close to the ear and breathing. And again, come out with control if you can, so you're not falling out of the posture, and you're holding about the same length of time on both sides. And again, before we come down to the mat, just have a bit of a shake and a dance and a play, whatever feels right for you, whatever the body needs. And then in a minute, we're going to come to kneeling, but I'd like you to actually come to lie on your backs into Shavasana, so you can have a bit of a rest and a reset before we do the next sequence.